Good afternoon, trader, and welcome to part 1 of the official Denwo trading crash course. Super excited to do this. It's going to be awesome. It's part 1 of 5. Got 5 videos coming for you. And the goal of this is to help you get caught up to speed with everything going on in the markets right now. Really intense trading conditions. Trying my best to keep everybody on the ship. So let's hop right into it. I hope you learn a thing or two about how to read charts. I'm sure you will, but to begin, our favorite, the anatomy of a bubble chart. The most important chart that exists, truly, in my personal opinion, for good reason. I've seen it all before. I've seen it play out many times over the years in crypto, in the stock market, everywhere, in the housing market. Yeah, absolutely. So we like to be the smart money here in the stealth phase before these assets truly begin to even take off whatsoever. Only then the public comes to awareness, okay? I basically started the whole YouTube channel based around this chart, because I was seeing a lot of these signs in AMC and GameStop content being made on YouTube. And it was a bit concerning, and I gotta say that ever since I took some profits, up 20x on my initial investment on AMC. Pretty good trade that was, pretty good swing trade. Ever since then, I've felt so good about my decision to do that and move it into other assets, rebalancing my portfolio so that it's not just entirely weighed down by AMC. Because right now, as I'm filming it, excuse me, got the old dry mouth. So, in the current days while I'm filming this, we're in the denial of AMC, the delusion, greed, denial. It's starting to get a bit concerning. There's only so much higher it can go, so it's about $55 today. And maybe it can 5x from here, go to 250. Anything beyond that's hope. So I do hope to see higher prices one day, and maybe we'll be there by the time you're watching this. But until then, I will be expecting some fear, some capitulation, all of it happen in Dogecoin. Anyway, this is the kind of stuff to avoid. So when I'm looking at investments and I go to search for news articles, you see stuff like this all the time. So this is on Market Watch, and it's talking about a 1 cent, 1 penny AMC target. This came out months ago, but it's absolutely ridiculous, and they're still pushing articles like this all the time. So just be careful what you see out there. Truly, on the internet, some of these sources appear credible, but then they push out crap content like this. Just kind of nonsense coming out of nowhere. 1 cent target's just as ridiculous as a $10 million target, right? So think for yourself. That's what I'm trying to teach you here. And I'm going to start the charts by taking a look at Nikola Corporation, okay? So there's no, it's kind of bundled up in the electric vehicle sector, okay? It's not exactly electric vehicle. They're doing stuff with hydrogen technology and some kind of hybrid engines. Anyway, that's essentially all you need to know about it, because it's super cutting edge. Like, American company presented zero emission vehicle concept since 2016. take some of its vehicles into production in the future. They have a plant in Phoenix, Arizona, so it is legit, right? Now, they had a whole bunch of FUD with the founder in the past. So when you first see this chart here, there's the 1 year chart. It looks really rough, doesn't it? Yeah. So it started at like 67, came all the way down to about $10. Now, looks can be deceiving. Only 2 months ago, it was at $10. Turns out that temporarily has been the bottom up until today. Now it's at 18, from about 9 to 18. Okay, so essentially it's doubled in value in the past 2 months here, which most people are losing sight of. They don't quite realize that. They're still thinking about the downtrend rather than the start of this brand new uptrend here. So I'm even gonna zoom out and show you the full history here. It's gone very high in the past, and that's something that sticks out to my eye. When I first look at this chart, I wanna see the whole history of this chart, the max time frame I can possibly see on it. That's what I did with AMC to find a really nice entry on that. So it hasn't even been having that much movement for very long, but when it gets moving, it does move very high, very fast. So there's a huge breakout peak back here, $65. I'm pretty sure it went even way higher than that, but you're not going to be able to see that on this simple chart here. So that's why we like to use our other tools like TradingView or other more advanced charting tools. Get a more accurate representation of the history. So anyway, it's come down for essentially a whole year here. And that's how most people are going to look at it, like, oh, it's just going to zero. Well, it started to have a nice new life here, a new fresh wind. So moving on, here's the CEO, right? So everyone's still thinking the FUD about him. Well, he was the founder. It says right here he is a billionaire, but former executive chairman. He's not even involved with the company as far as I know anymore. So it's really shouldn't be dragging the stock price down in the future. I believe that's all priced in now throughout the past year. Here's their truck. So I just went to their website, ecomotor.com, and just checking out what they actually do and just clicking around. It's a very sleek website, very nice, just showing off quality vehicles. Looks pretty good to me. I definitely think they'll have a long, bright future ahead, and there was just some trading nonsense going on the chart over the past months, the past year, and it's looking to recover. So I'll show you the chart. But first, here's RIDE, RIDE, Lordstown Motor Corp. Because we've been watching this on the live stream quite a bit. It's an interesting lockdown recovery play. So when I'm looking to invest in a company right now, nowadays, the cycle we're at with the markets, with the money flowing around, we're in this lockdown recovery type of cycle, and I've seen it play out on these charts. For the past year and a half, there's been charts that have massive lockdown impacting their charts, decimating the share price. So it went down 80% on this chart here during the whole pandemic and whatnot effect, essentially, on production and some other stuff. So anyway, the general idea is that it went down a lot for the past 6 months, whatnot. Okay. Now we're looking for a recovery going into the next 6 months. Looking for a nice 300% profits on this ride trade, just right off the bat, being that it's a lockdown recovery trade idea. Gives you a nice recovery target immediately on your chart. Without having to think too much about it, you're just analyzing it by the fundamentals and the bullishness of the actual product in the business, looking for it to recover to these old levels where it once was before the downtrend. Now, this chart isn't very helpful actually, so even with the candle bars, so this one actually with the line chart isn't too bad. Usually I wouldn't use a line chart, but you can see it's starting to curve around here and maybe in the early recovery phase already. So we're gonna need to add some stuff to this chart, but I'll go ahead and do it on the others. So we're gonna move on to nickel now. I just wanted to show you an example of that because this one's very choppy. It's hard to understand because of all this up and down price action. Green, red, green, red, green, red, green. So it's kind of confusing and difficult to time a chart like this, but it does have that general pattern here that we're looking for. So here's one that's much easier to understand with your eyes visually. Look at the smoothness to this pattern compared to the ride chart. It's almost a perfect U-shape potential here in the forming. So this looks very good for the long term, and since we're talking about long term, this is a weekly chart. I would not be able to understand this price action if I was zoomed in any further than this. I have to see the whole chart to get this bigger pattern here on the weekly chart, because if you go in too close, if you go into a 1 hour time frame chart, well, you're just gonna see a whole bunch of up and down action and lose sight of what's actually going on with the trend over the long term, over the months and years to come. Now, here's something that I do look for is stocks that mimic each other. These are two different charts. We have nickel on the left and XL fleet on the right, XL ticker. They look almost identical. Isn't that interesting? So it doesn't exactly help us make an entry. It doesn't exactly tell us what's gonna happen here. What it does hopefully tell, what we're hoping this tells us, the comparison between these two, is that they do both behave technically here, which makes sense because they're within the same sector, right? So not only that, but if nickel, let's say on the left here, begins a nice uptrend, a nice breakout here going forward, before XL starts moving whatsoever, perhaps XL is the next to follow, being that it's such a similar chart. It could help us make our next trade on XL. If one of them takes the lead, it gives you a clue that the other one might do something similar in the near future. It goes beyond that too. It's not just the chart, not just the candle bars. It's also the indicators, and I'll show you that in just a second. But first, there are differences as well, okay? Because if you take the current share price on Nikola, okay, at like $18 here, and we're going up to that old local high here, that's going to be 427%. If you do the same on XL fleet, it's not going to be quite as much. It's going to be just about 300% there. So you're talking 300% compared to over 400% potential on a short to mid-term target here to the old local top. So one of the first targets I look for in a chart like this, where it's been flat, right? Up until all the Wall Street bet hype, all the new traders entering the markets, well, they had awesome breakouts, awesome bull runs there. They came down for many months on XL as well. And then you're looking for a breakout right here. So you essentially have that depending on how you draw this trend line on Nikola here. And then one of the first targets I'm going to be looking for are these old levels from the previous breakout area. Those are going to be my first short-term, mid-term targets. Two of them right about there. The mid-term, potentially even long-term target, okay? What you're hoping is long-term. This will go beyond the old local high here. But to be conservative, we're going to call this a mid-term target here at the old local high. And then just below it, where most of the price action occurred, a whole bunch of these candle bars here. Extend that over, and that's going to be our short-term target there. Short-term being relative, so that could be, for some people, that's a matter of days. For others, that's weeks, maybe even a couple months. But that's a huge target for short term on a company like this, 200%. Just from I'm getting all of that just from the fact that I've seen this before many times in lockdown recovery plays over the past year and a half. That's what gives me these targets, so it makes me feel comfortable with these areas. I've seen stuff like this play out almost exactly to that hypothesis. Here's a cool one with sundial. SNDL chart. It'll be interesting. Look back on these videos in a few months. I suspect the price will be much higher than $1. It's been chilling under $1 on sundial for way too long, in my opinion, and that's part of the idea here. Psychologically, it's been very low in this area for too long, considering the type of price action that we do see from time to time on this chart. These gigantic buy wicks here. 275% breakout there. Well, that tells us how volatile sundial really is. So essentially we're expecting very large breakouts, very fast, very rapid. It could be one big candle like that, one big green candle on sundial. But if you note, the green box essentially looks like a floor, essentially looks like a bottom on this chart. The price action really has never come lower And it doesn't have too much lower it could have gone, to be honest. It came very, very low, almost to zero at one point during the pandemic. That's why this was a lockdown chart. And ever since, it's been in a recovery here. An undeniable uptrend recovery with a massive breakout. If you ignore the giant breakout, that big candle there, you just have a very nice continuation here, looking for long-term higher targets. If you use that same methodology that I was just showing you on the Nikola chart, the Excel chart, we can use this wick right here, the old local top, and that's going to be a massive target on this chart. So that's from under $1 to just about $4. Huge. 300% targets. Maybe beyond. You're hoping for beyond on a recovery long term. These are just short term, mid term targets real quick to give you something to work with. So now let's talk about the indicators for a second, because these two really are truly helpful. The MACD and the RSI. The reason I like them so much, what I use them for, is for timing. If they're coinciding with the chart here being a lockdown recovery like that, and you're looking for a potential entry, it's a great idea to check the MACD and the RSI. So for instance, the RSI on sundial here looks nice because here's that large breakout. It's bullish price action. It can go back up there again. So that's what you're looking for on the RSI, is that this does continue here. The reason you would feel confident about that is because you could draw a trend line right on the RSI. And it can be kind of a rough estimate here. It doesn't have to be exact on the RSI, but either way, currently have a nice bounce from there. So as long as this trend line holds, it does look quite nice. And it's a weekly RSI. And then also check out on Nikola. Some of these EV companies, I was looking at the MACD. Look at these MACDs. Well, how do you know it's good? There's a whole bunch of green coming through. There's a weekly as well, so even on the daily, you have a bunch of green here. So the more green the better. It looks like it may just be starting and could easily do something like it did right back here in the future. And then I like to look at these moving averages, these lines here, and it depends what indicator you do have turned on. So there will be a whole bunch of different ones that you can use. Some of them might have it, some of them might not. You're gonna have to play around with it and see which ones you like to use. But for instance, these here, when these cross over, I call this a bullish crossover. That's a good sign. This easily could continue. Not only that, these lines are very, very low compared to where it's been in the past. So it could come all the way back up here in the future. That's why I like those indicators. When you see it just starting to turn green like that, it can be a really nice signal. Pretty much they all have it. So check out this one on ride here. It's just starting to go green for the first week, last week. Bullish crossover weekly chart. That could be a huge signal for the next months to come here. That's the stuff I've been looking for, helping me find my entries on my big plays. So here's why. SPC, Virgin Galactic, it's already gone to the moon essentially. Look at this. gap up. It's called a gap because there's no candle here. There's no price action right there. Just one straight up, one giant green candle. That day is a daily chart, so that's 1 day price action. Absolutely insane, and that's the kind of stuff we're looking for. So how do you spot that? Well, look at the MACD. Look at the weekly MACD. Just like Ride started to do right now. This is the kind of stuff I'm seeing on the other charts just starting to happen here. The bullish crossover and the green candles coming in on the weekly MACD. Insane green candle. So, and it still looks like it has room to go on the RSI. It's not completely an oversold, excuse me, overbought. So let me clear that. I don't like using those terms, so I mix them up from time to time. When it's up here, it's called overbought. That means investors bought it up too far, essentially. When it's down here, that means it's oversold. That means they sold it down too far. Could bounce. Now, you can put a quick technical analysis on anything. Here's the SPY, the SPX chart, okay, S&P 500. That's what this chart is. So, what do you make of this? Well, when I first look at it, there's a few things. First of all, I want to zoom way out and see a few years back. Make sure I know everything that's going on here. No surprises. Here it is today. Very, very high. How do I know it's very high? Well, because here it is last year before the lockdown. So if you're looking at this chart as a lockdown recovery play, the recovery has happened. The recovery is full effect. And that's why I wouldn't necessarily enter into one of these charts, one of these stocks, because it's a blue sky breakout essentially, and I don't like to buy stuff that's going straight up. Excuse me, guys. We got a live stream in like 4 hours here. I'm gonna wrap it up. Not trying to keep you all day. 4 more videos to come. Stay tuned. I'm giving you a bunch of good stuff to get you warmed up. Let's do it to Bitcoin. Okay, stuff stands out here already. Bitcoin looks like a mountain just by looking at it. I've gone snowboarding a lot in my childhood, growing up and stuff. This simply looks like a mountain, guys. How else can you state it? It's like a giant volcano. Truly. So be very careful when you see something like this. It's very risky to catch the falling knife. Here's all the red on the MACD. So the lines here crossing over in this direction, that's going to be a bearish crossover. Added with all the red candles, it looks rough. That's a weekly indicator. So right off the bat, I know that it's very risky to enter long on this chart right now. But if you're looking for a go-to resources for the cryptocurrencies, well, check out CoinMarketCap. It's truly the best one. It's been around for years. Right at the top, you got the total market cap of all the cryptocurrencies combined. Right now, it's $1.3 trillion. You have the volume, the daily volume, and then you have the dominance, which is great to know if you're an altcoin trader. Don't worry about it if you're just getting started. and also the Ethereum gas fees. So just scrolling down, they have sorted out by the top market caps and whatnot. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tether. So they have essentially every altcoin on here, and then you can learn more about them when you click on them, which is kind of neat. Let's see. Let's try Cosmos, since we have a member named Cosmo. So you can see the price in Bitcoin, the price in Ethereum, change, some news charts, whatnot. That's where I would go to check about my crypto coinage primarily, right off the bat. Speaking of altcoins, crypto coinage, is Dogecoin chart. We called that one pretty good or pretty bad, depending on how you look at it. It went straight down essentially from when we were talking about it last time. And I just wanted to show it again because looking back on it, I mean, look at that chart now. It's straight down. It just went straight down. It's so clear and obvious. Anyone could see that, right? So when you see a chart that's just going straight down, yeah, it probably is just going straight down. There's not anything giving you a reason, a confirmation, a signal to enter that chart yet. Another thing to watch out for, stuff like this, OPTT. It's not that this is a bad company or bad chart or anything. All I'm saying watch out for it is because it's deceiving. This is essentially a lockdown recovery play. However, it has really wild price action going back to hundreds of dollars and beyond. Why does it look like that? Well, if you look real close, and I do recommend turning these on, so you can turn these on to earnings reports and the stock splits, and we have one hiding down here. It's a stock split, a 1 to 20 stock split, and I'm pretty sure there was another one in there somewhere. Yep, here's another one, a 1 to 10 stock split. So if you're not paying attention, you might not realize that the stock had split a couple times in the past there. Great, that's going to do it for our first crash course video. Stay tuned, second one coming at you next. I hope you learned a thing or two. It's pretty intense right now. I just wanted to summarize for a minute the whole market conditions, because this is what's going to make or break traders. That's why I'm making this crash course. Get this out to you as soon as possible so you can keep your footing in these choppy waters. Thanks everyone. Happy trading. Take care.